Hi, Misha here, and we're back. Greatly appreciate everyone's understanding. Really did need a couple of weeks break from recording and just to deal with some other stuff in life. It gave time for our new ideas to percolate and just to honestly just rest up and do other things and reorient. It also gave some time for some new guns to come out, which we'll be featuring in upcoming videos. But I figured to start off, let's kind of go low-key and also pick up where we left off last month with the new Polish WBP Jack rifle, chambered in 7.62 by 39. These are imported by Arms of America and converted, remanufactured in the USA by Atlantic Firearms. And this is a basic but really totally full feature AKM. Laminated traditional wood furniture, traditional AKM rear trunnion. It no longer has the Beryl style rear mount. It does have a storage compartment in the stock. Steel butt plate. They come with a black pistol grip. I had a spare Bakelite, so I tossed it on. Pretty standard trigger group. Standard side rail. Very much a standard 1mm AKM stamped receiver. Proper dimples. XY. A little bit unique. It has the kind of tantal or early AK-47 style smooth top cover instead of ribbed. But of course, a rib could be put on. Standard 800 or I guess 1,000 meters rear sight because it's an AKM base. Sorry. Typical AKM handguards, both the palm swell, and standard 16 1/4 inch barrel. And this is chrome lined, cold hammer forged, produced by FB-Radom. And it has kind of the late AKM style gas block. It does feature a bayonet lug, and it is threaded 14x1 left hand. It comes with a slant brake, but much kind of like with the pistol grip. Yeah, I had a AKM flash hider, and it really matches well. Talked about that in the previous video. Just wanted to give a rundown. But enough with that. Let's run the very first mag through it, and might as well use one of the modern green WBP mags. First shots out of the Jack using a WBP mag.
Chunka.
She shoots. So fully loaded, ran just fine. So now let's try it with more of a traditional Polish mag. AKM pattern, steel, painted. And I have another fully loaded up there. And now let's try the Jack with an old school Polish mag. And shoots again.
Oh, reliable.
So, first two mags, full. Ran just Jim Dandy. It seems a very smooth recoiler. Not noticing any signs of overgassing. I mean, outside of normal AKs, it didn't seem particularly thumpy or anything like that. Trigger was a very respectable military trigger. Not noticing anything unusual. That ringing you're hearing, that's the flash hider. So, yeah, that's not the gun. Yeah, everything's nice and tight. Handguards don't really have any play, buttstock. Yeah. Also, here's the Polish bayonet. During the break, I did a bayonet video just for fun. It was nearby, so I just grabbed it again. Wire cutters. But this bayonet would normally fit the gun if I didn't have this AKM flash hider on. It does have a standard lug. which is kind of nice. The way you can tell a Polish bayonet, it doesn't have the serrated edge. So that's my take. But let's toss it over. Let J-Ro have a chance. J-Ro jacking off.
That was it.
It's an AK. And while he's not the biggest fan of AKs, he's certainly no stranger to them. He's known me for 20 years. So, yeah, he agreed. It's a smooth shooting AK as far as that goes. And it is. The bolt throw is nice and smooth. Having this finish does help with it. This is at the point when I'm starting to say it's getting boringly reliable. At that point in the video, we'd put about 120 rounds through it total with, no real issues. Like I said, this is chambered for 7.62 by 39 and made by WBP, although the barrel is FB-Radom. It's not the only Polish gun, AK, in that chambering on the market now. And no, I'm not talking about Pioneer. I'm talking about this. The Beryl 7.62 M1. Of course, we've talked about this many times before, even compared it, especially to the WBP Fox. Now that the Jack has a few more classic features, this is very much becoming a standard AKM, and this is becoming very much a modern AK. And that's not a bad thing. Got the older style folding stock. There's been a lot of interest in these lately, the side folders. They were made for the original 96A, the WZ96A, and WZ96B, but they were discontinued for the WZ96C. So they haven't not been manufactured in over a decade, meaning they're getting hard to find. Now I will point out something. This stock will impact, if you try to put it on one of these, the shelf of the safety. That's because when it was the standard stock, the safety was more like what you see on a Tantal. The extended shelf did not come around till the C. Now if you have the safety on, it'll still clear it. But yeah, just something to point out. I also have the 96B Style Handguard on here. And this has a very similar barrel. It's still FB, cold hammer forged chrome lined, although it does have slightly different profiling to the one up here. But yeah. And of course it's threaded out front, a little bit different styling. If the bayonet lug were cut out, it too could accept the same bayonet. In fact, this muzzle device is slotted specifically for it. So maybe one day I'll do that. I brought this out as kind of a control if we had problems with this, but we didn't. But still yet, figured might as well shoot them side by side and see if there's much to say difference. So just as I had done for the WBP, I loaded up a couple of modern mags and a couple more classic Polish mags for the Beryl. So let's see how that did. Beryl 7.62. This one on that mag.
What ammo are you running?
I really don't know. Russian. Probably either Wolf or one of the Bears. Well, it was going quite well until that last round. That's a little unusual. I've not experienced that either with the gun before, which I've had for a year, or these mags. But I do have a few of these mags, as do I have a few of these, so could have been a mag thing. By the way, the ammo I checked was Red Army Standard, something I only recently really got, but we haven't had issues out of it in other guns. But yeah, let's try the other type of mag. Beryl 7.62.
Yeah, those mags aren't quite wanting to hold open.
Well, they're not hold open mags, but I have loaded them all the way to 30 rounds, so it's not surprising. Sometimes the last round. We'll try the other set on this gun. Quite curious. It could be the gun, but that's an odd thing for a gun to have. And it could be the ammo, could be the magazines. It could just be a combination of all of them. I actually suspect the culprit was loading all the way to 30 rounds, and perhaps with that ammo and the gun and just everything. Keep in mind, it's been kind of an old soldier's tale for many, many years not to load all the way up to 30. Not just with the original M16 in Vietnam, but even the M14. And so I suspect that if I had downloaded to 28, it probably would have ran a little better. In fact, let's do just that. Let's take a mag and load it just a little bit less using the same mag that goofed earlier, and see if the mistake repeats on the last round or not. All right, Beryl 762. Alrighty.
Ran a little better that time.
Yeah. So no, it did not. And we continued to shoot it a little bit throughout the day. But yeah, that never happened again. Of course, I never did try to shove a fully loaded 30-round mag in again. So something to be mindful of. But again, this was brought out to be more the control. We've had it out maybe 3 times already and no issues. One of those things to be a little bit in the back of your mind, but nothing too overly concerning at this time. More importantly, the WBP. It continued to perform quite well all day. So, if we can kind of chalk up the Beryl's little quirk there to something not directly involved with the gun, which one did we kind of prefer shooting? Very, very similar, honestly. The triggers are virtually the same, military style triggers. Of course, shooting the same ammo, same mags. I will say, furniture-wise, this vertical grip was kind of helpful in pulling it down on target. The palm swells help a little bit on the jack, but not quite as much. Regarding the stocks, it's kind of the reverse. While both are good, this is a folder. It does have a short length of pull, and it does have a rubber butt plate. But it is pretty hard rubber, and it's pretty narrow. Whereas this, even though it's steel, it's a little bit wider, and it's a little bit heavier. It felt like this jack was a little bit heavier overall. Not by a whole lot, but just a little tiny bit. And whereas your Beryl has more mass out this way, this one's more evenly distributed. So I think the weight made this feel a little, just a tiny bit less recoily. A little bit less felt recoil for the jack. But again, the Beryl, that's offset by having a vertical foregrip. It doesn't come with it, of course, but I've installed that on mine. The jack has the side mount for an optic. This has the Beryl over the top cover style. This has more of a matte finish, and this has more of a paint type finish. Both of them have 16-inch barrels. The jack does have a working bayonet lug. The Beryl does not, but you could add one. Alternatively, it does have a lug here for the Tantal type bipod. It does not have a cleaning rod onto the barrel. It is not supposed to. This does, of course, because it's based on the AKM. It really does get down to personal preference. Quality is really high on both of them. Price, the jack is maybe a little bit cheaper than the Beryl, but not significantly, and both are actually cheaper than Arsenals today. And I would say both had less felt recoil than Arsenals, generally speaking, which is kind of interesting. Both are really nicely smooth guns. I would say the bolt throw is a little smoother on the Jack because of the finish, probably. On the other hand, the Beryl, you get this really nicely enlarged kind of paddle safety, mag catch, and you do get the extended shelf safety we looked at. So I do like those two pieces of ergonomic a little bit more. They're both on 1.0 millimeter stamped receivers. Oh, yeah, I don't think either one would serve you poorly. And since they're both from the same importer and remanufacturer here in the USA, you're not going to have any difference in the way the companies deal with you because it's the same company. So it really does come down to, do you want a modern tactical 7.62 39 AK from Poland, or do you want a traditional AKM 7.62 39 AK from Poland? Kind of choice is yours. I guess if I just had to say, I kind of do like the Jack a little more, but full disclosure, that is subjective because I am just such a huge fan of the classic Polish laminate look. And of course, this one you can put whatever you want on it and make it a whole different look. You can put wood on this if you wanted, so it's hard to say. Well, one thing we often have been doing at the cabin, shooting around dark to try out flash hiders, muzzle brakes, or bare muzzles, and can get some pretty interesting fireballs. Now the Beryl here, it has a muzzle brake, quite effective. So let's see what she looks like neon dark. Beryl 7.62, last mag. Let's see about the fireballs. Yeah.
It's firebally. And yeah, the light's kind of dropping out on us, so yeah, we can see that one good.
Yep, so yeah, this has been running better. I think everything else was just what it was. Alrighty. So yeah, according to Jero, quite flashy. One thing I do want to point out, this is an American-made part. The original military ones are actually pinned onto the barrel using the same style of pins for your front sight and gas block. I think Atlantic made a good call for American market, making this removable. It's on 14x1 left-hand threads. So this is made in the US, but it's very close to the Polish spec, even having the little slot for the grenade ring. But one thing, they had an error in the production run. There are 3 sets of ports. 2 on the bottom, 1 on each side, and then there's 1 here. This should be on the right. Their manufacturer flipped it. So that might have something to do with it having a little bit more felt recoil. Or not, who knows. But I will say the newest versions of the Beryl, both in 7.62 and 5.56 that have come in 2022, this has been corrected. So no worries if you get one, it'll be right. And if you have an older one, this does unscrew. You can replace it. But it is definitely not a flash hider. But this is about 3 inches worth. And since this was designed for night vision and stuff, let's see how it really does. So let's try this fancy AKM flash hider here at dark.
Man, that is a sensationally effective flash hider.
Yeah, it was designed for working with their night vision optics, so kind of had to be, I guess.
I mean, typically our last shoot of the day out here in the cabin is to break out something punchy and throw some fireballs out the end. That was next to nothing.
Take your word for it. Again, according to J-Ro, because I am not your go-to source for how flashy things are, you heard him. Very effective, as it should be, because those early night vision optics, Generation 1, even Gen 2, did not take well to flash. So it seems like a neat device to have on the gun. And again, the finish matches quite well. And yeah, that was the end of the day. We ended up running a couple of 100 rounds total through this. Literally not a single malfunction out of the jack. And no issues with the Beryl except for the two you saw on camera there. And even those, all I had to do was kind of charge it, and it's just odd. It's something I'm going to have to experiment with more next time. But I think you'd be best served by either one. It just really does come down to personal preference. But let me know what you think. And of course, if you get the modern Fox, the Fox Gen 2 or V2, it's going to look identical to this, except it will have the Beryl mounts here and here on it. So if you prefer that style of scope mount. From Atlantic, both of these ship in a soft tactical case, and they come with one magazine. And yeah, that's about it. But we'll be doing more with Polish guns throughout the spring, and there'll be more fancy videos with editing and me at the table, and even some discussions, even a couple of interviews coming up. But I wanted to get back with you and say thanks, and we're back and have some new videos recorded and coming around. But for now, just me and you talking about the jack. But yeah, very pleased with both. But it is good just to have a good classic, reliable AKM. And of course, as time permits, we'll continue to put rounds through this. I did take it apart after shooting it. Didn't notice any peening of the bolt carrier tail. And didn't notice any kind of weird wear up here. But, you know, with 200, 250 rounds through it, that's not really where most of those things show up. But it's a good start. No issues, no problems. And it did feed from pretty much, you know, we had these mags out. Also had a Magpul mag. So, no problems. Should work with any halfway standard AK mag you can come up with, including bolt hold open mags that apparently J-Ro was expecting. To be fair, those have become popular with a lot of US shooters. To me, they kind of throw me off. By the way, if you were wondering how I knew there was one round left in that Beryl when it malfunctioned, it's because it didn't feel right. I felt the bolt coming back but not going forward, and well, you shoot enough AKs, you just kind of know what does and doesn't feel right. So yeah, that's how I know. But please, we'd love to have you comment below. As always, if you please could, like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, you can go over and check out the Patreon page. I make posts over there, talk about upcoming videos, sometimes ask people what they'd like to see, make announcements, just generally speaking, hang out a bit more. This is Misha. Catch you very soon, next time.